Okay, so Jai Hind everybody. Today we have our another subject matter expert who will be speaking on the disaster management. You would have seen in the recent past, especially in our hill states, there have been a lot of landslides, cloud bursts, wherein a lot of lives and property have been lost. This is a kind of recurring feature, and invariably, NDMA and the armed forces, other state resources, they respond in the reactive mode, whereas there is a need of proactive measures if the real mitigation is looked at. So, Professor Rupani will take us to the various aspects of this particular subject. But before she starts, I would request Manish to introduce the speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Today we have honor to receive as our guest lecturer Dr. B. Rupini, Professor of Environmental Studies, former Director of SOITS IGNOU. She is the Program Coordinator for PhD in Environmental Science and Postgraduate Diploma in Environmental and Occupational Health. She is an organic chemist by training who taught in different conventional universities, including Delhi University for 30 years, and published more than 50 research papers, articles, including book chapters, and 4 edited books in national and international journals and publishers. She has successfully completed 3 projects funded by UGC, DST SERB, and DST Indo-Portugal under supervision of University of Grants Commission, Ministry of Science and Technology to work in field of environmentally benign ionic liquids and nano antimalarials. She worked in collaboration with scientists from University of Madeira, Portugal for DST Indo-Portugal project. She delivered lectures as keynote speaker various national and international conferences. She is a recipient of appreciation for significance contribution in Green Chemistry 2023, GCLC University, University of Delhi Distinguished Scientist Award in 2016 by Center for Advanced Research in Design, Venus International Foundation, India. Scientist of the Year 2017 Award by NISA, India. National Environmental Science Academy Fellowship of the Year Award 2020, STE. Meritorious Award 2020 for her achievements and contributions in the field of chemistry. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Now, all yours.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So I hope my slides are visible.
Absolutely.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. And very good morning to everyone, especially to the chair of the session and all the dignitaries and the fellow colleagues. Very good morning. And today we will explore one of the most pressing challenges, and especially for the Indian Himalayan as well as the hill states. Of course, we know that, and then we are working for, the government is also working for, at the same time we are facing the so many disasters and we are unable to cope up with those disasters on time. So this is an need of the hour also, and so this is the only upgradation as well as the updation of our knowledge, so that we are able to understand the things, and then how can we promote this type of disaster management systems, or the approaches, or the strategies, and then time to time. So with this one, because we have there are so many recent catastrophic events are also there, even though from 2013 onwards we are experiencing almost each and every day, and then Kedarnath, the tragedy, to these flash floods in Himachal Pradesh, as well as the recurrent cloud bursts. So this is the first a little bit frequency of the cloud bursts are happening, and then most of the general public also talking about that, even though they don't know exactly what is cloudburst, but why it is happening. And then previously it was in Uttarakhand or the hill areas or some other areas, but everywhere now we are observing that cloudburst also. In Telangana also recently the cloudburst occurred. So what are these things? So just I want to give a brief introduction, and then how can we go about it. So before starting into that, first we have to understanding the threat hill state threats, we can say that this landscape. And then here it is there are four now what is that parameters I have taken that, because normally the Indian hill states, they have the unique vulnerabilities. So the first one I would like to tell that is the geological fragility, and the second one is the climate change amplification, and the third one is the anthropogenic activities, maybe pressures, and the fourth one is infrastructure limitations. Just I thought that it is better to go by step of the process, and then what is exactly happening. So first we have to have some understanding about why these things are happening, and then what are the criteria for it. So first one is the geological fragility. So here if you can see that there are the zones, it has been already what is that divided in our entire thing. So the Himalayan mountain range is the youngest fold mountains, that means comes under that classification of the fold mountains on earth. Of course we know that it is formed almost 40 to 50 million years ago, but they are still growing because of the ongoing collision between that what we can say that Indian as well as the Eurasian tectonic plates. So the most the fractured rock masses, we can say that they are the rocks which are heavily jointed, as well as they are broken also. And because of that, they have these Himalayan region, they have zones 4 as well as 5. If you can see that 4 and 5 in this map, they are the India seismic zonation map, this one. And then because of the composed of the weak sedimentary layers of that mountains, because of that geologists normally they will explain that what type of rocks are there, that is the phyllites are there, and shales that weather easily. So that is why this zonation map is just, I want to show that how it will be taken up by this, and how what is that this fragility, that also one of the important features we have to understand. And here also I have given that, I don't know why this one something it is some technical error must have been done for this one, because it is only half of the slide is visible properly. So for that, it is if we will see that real examples, that is a Joshimath subsidence crisis in 2023. So that also we have to see that as an example, because of this Joshimath is in Uttarakhand, which is experienced the massive land subsidence because of that the soil culture as well as the geological factors also, because over 800 buildings which have the they developed as well as the cracks within a week's time. And then maybe immediate what is that observations are the ancient landslide debris as well as the loose sediments, because of on that platform the town has been built. So that's why geological surveys always revealed that this area was never ever suitable for the dense construction. So Hyderabad based National Remote Sensing Center, NRCSC, and the Indian Space Research Organization also, they have released satellite images of the Joshimath along with the primary report that the sinking town because of the land subsidence. So that means how much subsidence it has been taken place, that is a 5.4 centimeters, I hope so, within a week's time or within 2 weeks of time. So this is also one of the major thing we need to think about it. So that means the major outcome for this one is that means the depends upon the geological factors. The government should not give any permission to build the that sort of dense structures. And the second example I would like to give that is a Kedarnath disaster, because it is also one of the examples for the geological fragility, and because of there's a lot of massive debris is also there because of that what is that? The cloudburst that triggered multiple landslides. And if you can see that before as well as the after one, and that is a Chorabari glacier lake that is breached, that is also added to this catastrophe. So this is also multiple landslides has been taking place. So that is also one of the disasters what we have come across. And then another example I would like to give, that is a Kinnaur landslide. It is in 2021. Everyone, we have the still memories that that is the because of that Shimla highway buried vehicles as well as many people have been killed, and then including tourists. And then this type of catastrophes as well as the disasters always demonstrates that how even routine or the regular monsoon rains can also trigger this type of deadly landslides because of this infractured terrain. So that means they are prone to have that one. So we need to understand the geological factors before constructing anything, and then the government also has been given any number of policies as well as the early warning systems. But in spite of all those, still we are having this type of tragedies. And the second factor is the climate change amplification. So because I have divided this one because in this way, that because everyone is talking about the climate change, but how climate change is occurring or the happening, specifically floods, and then how it will what is the role of climate related disasters, especially in the floods as well as the cloudbursts. Because in India's still states is because of the dangerous amplification loop, where the global warming impacts that will interact with the region's fragility as well as the unsustainable local practices. Even though the population of those hill states are comparatively low, but unsustainable local practices depends upon their region. So because of that, that is one of the factors. So this amplification, that what it will takes, it will have a proactive disaster management challenging. So what are the key challenges if we can discuss about it? So the most what is that straightforward or the direct reason for this acceleration of floods frequency and then cloudburst, that is changes in the global climate system. So once we are talking about the global climatic system, that means which are disproportionately affecting the Himalayan region. So that means the faster warming rate, we can say that is the approximately twice. I have given that 0.2 degrees per decade versus 0.15 degrees centigrade globally. So that means there is a global impact is also there. I'm not finding fault with only our Indian culture, our Indian region, our Indian terrain. So the natural moraine dams which are holding these lakes are highly unstable. And then a sudden breach that is causes a glacial lake outburst, that also we have heard in the news as well as on the Ministry of Environmental and Forest climate change website. Also they have given some documentary evidences that the glacial lake outburst flood, that means it actually it is a very massive thing and destructive the volumes of water and then sediment and debris also. It will come down to the through the stream, which triggers the flash floods because of the devastating infrastructure which we have already experiencing in 2023 also. And the second thing is the what is that? That is a because of these conditions, there is an alteration in the precipitation pattern also. That means that is a basic concept of the precipitation mechanism. That is the normally the in general environment, the warmer air which holds more moisture in the that is in the water vapor system. and this will increase the potential for the extreme as well as the short duration rainfall. So this is the scientific evidence which directly leads to the more frequent as well as the severe cloudbursts. And then there is another factor is also there, because of the increase of the frequency of the cloudburst, that is a thermodynamic link also. That means global warming, which enhances the atmospheric potential for the deep convection. So obviously, it is the entire environment is a big laboratory. So there are so many unseen chemical reactions are taking place that feeds the clouds which are responsible for the cloud burst. They will increase the variability as well as the unpredictability of the South Asian monsoon patterns also. That leads to periods of the prolonged drought, and then extremely heavy concentrated rainfall that will maximize the risk of the flash floods as well as the landslides. And if we will talk about the another factor, if we will see that these examples just I have given that. So the climate change amplification, there are the Chemoli glacier burst is there, Kedarnath's Charavari lake is there, Kerala floods are there, Himachal Pradesh flash floods are there, cloud burst. That means each and every almost every year are the alternative year. So that means if we will look into the Chemoli glacier burst in 2021, that is a portion of the Nanda Devi glacier broke, and then and then the devastating flash flood occurs in the Rishiganga as well as the Doliganga rivers. So that there are many people have been killed as well as the missing, and then the hydropower projects are also destroyed, and the attribution of the scientists are the disaster management specialists. Their attributions are the event is warming temperatures as well as the weakening glacier stability. So that means warming temperatures, why it will cause. So the basic conceptual thing we need to understand, and then whatever it is the root cause, that we need to rectify it. At least we can try to rectify it. And if we will see that Kedarnath's lake disaster, this is also because of the acceleration in the melting. So that means once it is there is an speed, the melting rate is very very high, and then of course there is a because that is only a man-made structures. So breach during the cloudburst, releasing the massive volumes of the water, which can create a deadly combination of flood as well as the debris flow. And then of course Kerala monsoon floods, this is an erratic monsoon patterns because of despite not being in the Himalayas, Kerala also matlab to Western Ghats, they also shows the similar vulnerability. Almost in 2018 and 2019, it is very very bad. That means received 100 and more than 150% excess of rainfall, and there are a lot of monetary losses also there. And then traditional monsoon predictions, they are became the unreliable. And in Himachal Pradesh, flash floods are also there. Unprecedented rainfall, of course, that is also there. And roads, bridges, and then almost most of the apple orchards are also devastated. So that means what exactly we will think about the cloud burst. That is, the rainfall is above the 10 centimeters per hour. So you can imagine that extreme weather event. The IMD normally they will define that the precipitation, that is a rainfall 100 millimeters per hour over a small geographical area. So that resulting in the flash floods and the landslides depends upon their geographical aspect. So that will cause the major disaster risk, particularly in mountainous regions. And then if we will move on to the anthropogenic pressures. So that means if we will talk about the anthropogenic these things, and we need to understand that what is the role of exactly the anthropogenic pressures in disaster management in Indian hill states particularly, because it is a risk amplifier. So because it is a risk amplifier, and so these the human activities which normally, of course, we know that what are the anthropogenic activities. So the addressing the pressures, especially on the why that primary natural patterns that triggers the flash floods as well as the cloud burst, which region wise fragile geology as well as the extreme climate events. And mainly because of this is one of the factors, that is a human activities, which of course significantly increasing in the vulnerability of the ecosystem, and also the severity of the frequency of the resulting disasters. So that means we don't have any remedy, or we don't know anything how to execute the policies. We don't think so. In that way, we cannot speak like that. But there are some factors: unplanned infrastructure and then construction. Just like that, we will, as a layman, we will speak about that unplanned infrastructure. That means we know, that means the whatever it is, the hill stations, regions, the state controlling boards, state authorities, because they know that there is a slope destabilization. That means large scale projects, for example, in the Chardham highway project, if you will look into that, there is a road widening is also there. That means involving the extensive cutting of the hill as well as the blasting procedures are taking places. So that means what will happen when these processes are using they loosens as well as the fracturing of the already it is fragile geological structure. And because of these procedures, the young Himalayan mountain range that will making that slope is highly unstable, and then obviously it will prone to landslides. And the second thing is the excessive load. So that means how much it can bear, that weight or the density. So that means there is a rapid and then unregulated growth is also there of the urban centers. And because of the tourism, the hotels as well as the resorts are also there, and there are unsustainable load of concrete and construction debris on the unstable slopes as well as ridges. That is the driving force which can change, which can force for the slope failure. And the third important unplanned infrastructure is that hydroelectric projects are also there. So that is just I have given only a chart that there's the components of the preparedness, what will happen. And then before that, just I have given that why unplanned infrastructure as well as construction is also one of the factors under the category of the anthropogenic pressures. And the second category is the environmental degradation. So that is the deforestation is also there, and blocked drainages are there, natural drainage channels are also there, and that is a temporary mountain streams. There is a juga types structures are also they are making encroachment because of the on the river beds, foot plains, and then what not. There are so many things are there, and the when the cloud burst occurs, the water has nowhere to go, but there is no other option for the water. It will through human settlements built whichever in the in the river beds, that is a natural expansion zone. Obviously it will definitely magnify the destruction. So whenever the cloud burst hit, the deforestation will takes place, the cutting of the hills and the construction of this one, and then there is a lot with a great force. And then not only the water, and also they will mud flow is there, and high velocity of the destruction can be taken place. So these are the some of the just the how to prepare, and then what type of preparedness is required, and then what is the anthropogenic role in the amplification as well as the proactive measures. Just I have given only four. One is a risk assessment, that is ignoring the geological as well as the ecological warnings, and proactive measures are enforcing the landslide hazard zonation and carrying capacity studies for all projects. So I came to know that on the documentation part of the MOEFCC website, everything is in place. The documentation is well placed, they're well written, and the policies are well in place. And then the ordinances are there. But where we are failing every time, So why we are thinking about, why we are conducting the awareness camps, why we are training our NIDM personals, and then why we are taking about the projects, and then we are moving there, and then we are talking about for 1 month, and then why again for the next catastrophe, and then I don't know whether we are waiting for that. Something should be again should happen, or are there any prediction measures that we have to think about seriously? And prevention as well as the mitigation, this is the documentation part, that is a deforestation and debris dumping destabilizes the slopes and then block the rivers. So root cause, instead of talking about the post disaster measures, so before that we have to have some at least a concrete plan, and then concrete projects we have to think about it, and then at least to minimize, not at the level of a high level of the cost of the normal people, general public, as well as the hydroelectric projects, and also urban planning is also most important, which is just I have given that these hill specific building codes, that is a mandatory, and then we have the environmental impact assessments are also there, and then why should we give permission as well as regular monitoring whether there is an encroachment is there or not. At least some measures we can take up. And then if we will look into the other infrastructure limitations, so in other infrastructure limitations, for example, if you will see that we know that all the vulnerabilities are there, hill states, lack of robust systems for the what we are calling as a early warning systems, and then the army people, and then all NIDM, and everyone is having the early warning and then evacuation measures and the emergency response also. But what stops that the warning system, what are the limitations for the warning, early warning system, as well as the forecasting the that's the infrastructure, that is a critical detrimental role of that disaster management in India, especially in the hill states, that what we need to discuss about. That means we don't, that means something is hampered by that is an inadequate infrastructure, that is insufficient monitoring density must be there, or otherwise it is AWS, that is a automatic weather stations, and 0 hour warnings, and in spite of doing all those things, so where we are failing, that we have to check about it. And there are some what in document also shows that there are radar blind spots. That means wherever the Doppler weather radar, that is a network that is still being installed and is also insufficient to cover the entire, because the mountain terrain is very very complex in nature. It is not an easy task that what we are discussing about right now, because there are so many peaks and ridges that create blind spots. So that means wherever the radar signals are obstructed, and then that will prevent the early detection or the prior detection to of the cloud burst, or the formation of the clouds, as well as the convective mechanism that is taking place. And the third important limitation is the lack of the last mile communication. That means when a warning is generated, automatic generated system is there, so the automatic weather stations will provide the warnings that break down the communication infrastructures, because of the mobile towers must be not working properly because of this type of disturbances, as well as the power lines in remote valleys. So that is one of the limitation, that is a last mile dissemination of vulnerable communities, because most of them are a staggered form.
I'm unable to show those slides, but
No.
so I'll try to explain those things. So we have talked about the that is the geological fragility, and then climate change amplification, and anthropogenic pressures also we have discussed about, and then we are talking about, I hope so, the infrastructure limitations. So that means we have to have the we have to have that sort of infrastructure. We have to think about that before talking about the meteorological factors as well as the topographical amplifiers, that is which are having the lot of anthropogenic pressures. So whatever it is, the chart what we have seen previous slides also explains about the how the human activities, and then that is the minimum knowledge of the human beings, that the infrastructure limitations one has to follow, as well as the limitations in the transport. Also the connectivity infrastructure is also one of the factors, that because of the vulnerability in roads as well as the inadequate bridges as well as the culverts which are also there, for the that it should not be oversized or the undersized, which are not designed to withstand this the high velocity as well as the high sedimental roads because of the geological factors which are generated by the flash floods. And also there is a delayed response time is also there, but the collapse of the roads because of that what is the approaching roads, they are because critically damaged and delays the mobility of the National Disaster Response Force for the as well as the medical teams and essential relief supplies also, that will completely disturbed. So and then these some structural, we can say that the hydraulic infrastructure is also which is required, because there is a failure in the building the resilient infrastructure compounds, that sort of risk which is posed by the extreme weather conditions. That is a non-resilient construction is there, poor drainage system and hydropower vulnerability, and so that means poor forecasting. So altogether we can say that because of these there is a lack in the forecasting mechanism that will prevent the proactive whatever it is the measure, that is the evacuation or the and then the recovery of the damaged roads as well as the communication lines. So that means proactive management obviously demands, which is the priority of the climate resilient infrastructure, which is designed with the hill specific hydrological as well as the geological risks which are keeping in mind. And now if we will talk about, so these are the four criterias which we can consider for the sudden catastrophic events, cloud burst, as well as the flash floods. And then what the government activities or the government policies and the frameworks that are in place. Of course, everybody knows about that. This is the Disaster Management Act 2005, that is also in place, and the National Disaster Management Plan that is also revived, NDMP, in 2019 itself, and also Sendai framework. That is also there, and then hill state specific policies are also there. National landslide risk management strategy, that is also in place, as well as the financial mechanisms. So these are the most important practice which we have to understand, that these government policies as well as the activities and frameworks, how these how the what are the provisions, at least the common people should understand, to bring awareness. That is a mandatory disaster management plans at all levels should be there, and also the national disaster response force creation at that particular areas, and state disaster response forces should be in place, and also all what all hazardous approaches are there. So that means time to time should be what is that create some awareness, either by the mock drills or by the conferences, or by the in to address the people, because to focus on the prevention as well as the mitigation by integrating the sustainable development goals as well as the community-based disaster management activities, especially for the hill states, which have the specific provisions like landslide risk assessment management plans and seismic risk mitigation plans. And if we will talk about the Sendai framework, that everybody knows that India's commitment for the especially Sendai's framework, that is 2015 to 2030, there are so many targets they have given, that is a sustainability, what is that reduction of the disaster mortality, and then at least we can prevent the number of affected people and prevent the economic losses, and to enhance the good early warning systems. And there are actions are also there. There are because I have seen only three or four important action plan is there. There is a framework, that is the first, understanding the disaster risk. What exactly the disaster risk? In general, we will speak about that, particularly in particular areas. We will concentrate. We have to focus on that, on the area of the geological activities, and the strengthening the disaster risk governance. That is most important to manage the risk of the disaster, and that is a DRR efforts are also there, and then investing in disaster risk reduction for the resilience. That is also most important part, because the allocating resources and funds for that, and then non-structural measures, we can say that is a land use planning and the environmental protection also for during unseasons of that particular disasters. And the fourth framework is also to enhance the disaster preparedness for the what we can call it as a build back better in recovery, rehabilitation, as well as the reconstruction patterns. So that means the focus on the readiness planning, and at least we need to ensure that post disaster recovery, at least to reduce the future risk. So these are the things. And then there is a Sendai framework. There are some goals are also they have given, that what is that the reduction in the global disaster mortality, as well as the affected people, how we can reduce the number, how the the directions of the disaster economic loss, especially with regard to the global gross domestic product GDP ratios, we have to think about it, and also reduce the disaster damage to critical infrastructure, that is especially for the educational systems, as well as the health management programs or the health management system, and also the and then increase the number of what is that categories, that the national as well as the local disaster risk reduction strategies. So all these things, as well as the international cooperation system, is also most important, with the MOUs or with the other countries, developed nations, through adequate as well as a sustainable support by the government institutions. And also there should be an increase in the availability as well as the access to the not only a single hazard, but we can say that multi hazard systems is also should be there, as well as the time to time assessments must be there. So and hill state specific policies, what we are talking about, because there is a disaster mitigation centers must be there, state of the art facility for the coordination of that one, and then compulsory mandatory bylaws should be in place. And then somebody should monitor that execution of these bylaws, and carrying capacity studies for the tourism or the pilgrimage centers, and also not only the management or the monitoring of those issues, but the real-time monitoring of the glacial lakes are also most important, especially for this Himachal Pradesh. If you will look into that early warning system through integrated water, some in resource information system is also there in place. And also they are talking about, they are working about the community based disaster risk reduction programs, at least at the ground level, level, we can communicate the people, we can bring some awareness in the local community, well, in like because there is an integration of the defense infrastructure for the quick response, especially in Jammu Kashmir as well as Ladakh after post Article 370 also. That is a revised disaster management structure also. It is also documented on the ministry website. And finally, if we will talk about the financial mechanism, of course, it is most important for the state disaster response fund should be there time to time, and then 75% of the central government contribution is there, and 90% for these special category states, including that means a special category in the on the basis of the hill states as well as the vulnerability of such disasters, like coastal areas as well as the hill areas, wherever this type of catastrophes we can expect in future. And National Disaster Response Fund is also most important, because whenever there is a severe disasters, there is always, not sometimes, but every time it exceeds the SDRF capacity. So I don't know whether to speak like this or not, but there are some challenges out there. One has to accept it, because there is a delay in the release of funds. So it is not exactly the something has happened, so immediately one has to go, and then practically one needs some money. The funds should be released on time, and then they are very very insufficient funds for the large scale disasters. So a lot of and then there is a need for the mitigation for the fund allocation, which is not in practice. So it is high time. So the on time fund releases, and not the very minimal or the nominal amount is not sufficient enough to meet those large scale disasters. And if we will talk about the proactive technological solutions, for example. So for this proactive technological solutions, it is there is a early warning systems, for example, meteorological systems. If you will see that that is a Doppler weather radars are also there, almost more than, I hope it is, they have given that 35 to 40, but at least 30 minimum must be expected to deploy the across the India, provided that they will provide immediately, that is a real time weather tracking. And automated weather stations are also there. They are also in place wherever there is a dense network in hill states, because of that meteorological factors as well as the geographical factors which hinders that sort of signals, capturing those signals for tracking the real time weather patterns. And also dynamic early warning systems, IMD initiative for the specific hazards are also there, because there is a success story for the Odisha cyclone management. Even though it is not a hill state, but it is a vulnerable area for the coastal area, which it has been already reduced cyclone mortality by 90%. So similar systems that can be expected, and then that being adapted for the hill states also, at least to minimize, at least to some extent, not exactly 90%, at least 70 to 80% we can expect that one. And the second proactive measures we can think about is satellite based monitoring system. ISRO activities initiatives are also there. There are high resolution imagery for the landslide mapping. It is already existing, but why it is not working or the functioning, and then continuous supervision or the monitoring, or there is a gap or the lapse in the state level monitoring authorities, that also one has to think about it. That is a Cartosat series are also there. That is a high resolution landslide mapping with the ISRO. And another one is also all weather satellite for flood monitoring is also there. And INSAT 3D weather monitoring station is also and also for the glacial lake monitoring system, regular satellite monitoring with the with for every 3 hours, weather prediction for the cloud burst. That is also in place. Regular satellite monitoring, ground verification programs, and because of the GIS system, that is the especially those geographical information system, they mainly apply to the hazard donation mapping before the any disaster can happen, and vulnerability assessment, that is a regular system assessment should be there, and evacuation routine planning, as well as the mock drills, and there should be an evacuation route planning, that is also most important. And then once it happens, and then where we have to go, and then how we have to migrate those people from one place to other. So the mobilization is also most important. So for that, there is a route planning is also required, and resource deployment optimization, which can be done by this route planning. Along with that, simultaneously this route planning, the deployment optimization can also be done with the monetary as well as the human resources, we can say that. So some, and then now the most upcoming field, that is the artificial intelligence and machine learning is also there. That is also one of the interesting factors that even though there is still research is going on, but this is most important not only for the academic things, but for the especially for the disaster management also. Emerging applications, that is the rainfall prediction models are also there, and then we have to train more graduates or the more people in this direction, and then give sufficient training, and then well equipped with those models, and at least mapping issues as well as the modeling issues, one has to equip with that, because this is an automated damage assessment from the drone as well as the satellite imagery. So that means even though if we are sitting in one place, and then you can operate with those modalities, so and then we can help through the social media in the real time information. So that can be, we can fetch into, and one area to seriously explore in that, because so many IITs, last time one CII, there is a one symposium that I have attended. In that, IIT Mandi as well as IIT Roorkee also, they have developed that specific flood forecasting models, as well as the IIT Roorkee is a early warning system for the Uttarakhand, the early warning system for the landslides. They have demonstrated, they are very confident enough to disseminating this knowledge, as well as they want to showcase these forecasting models to the government also. And communication technology, we have well established SMS alert from the IMD, and mobile apps also there, NDMA, as well as the there's a Meghdut that is also there, and then Damini, that is also one of the mobile app which is also in place, and one more thing, that is a geo targeted warnings. So that is a targeting as well as the tagging systems are also in place, but how far we are easily and then quickly we are using that we have to think about it. And siren systems, of course, it is already there. I don't know, because the sirens sometimes because of the geographical area, the sound is not approaching to the people. That should be installed properly in flood prone valleys, and socially that solar powered for the reliability, because there are so many glitches, technical glitches for that. And there should be an integration of the weather monitoring system, and of course there is a community radio is also there, which is in place. And all these are, if we can synergize in one nodal place of that particular area, so that we can use especially in a proactive way, so that communication technology as well as a structural monitoring, so these things we can use into the regular day-to-day lives for at least to minimize those things, the disasters. So there is a lot of research still is required for that. So we have to imagine that Indian hill states. So we have always hope for the possible future, and then because our tendency is always hope for the best. So though imagine the hill states in 2035, and because that is now it is a sustainable development goal. So first we have thought of the 30, and then now 35, and then 40, 2040. So at least one warning systems of the cloudburst forms for the Uttarakhand area within minutes, at the satellite detects, AI model predicts, and then targeted SMS alerts. So these things we can think about it, and then at least most of the lives can be saved. And the resilient infrastructure, of course, the government has to put danda or the mandatory punishments should be given, that building the what is that violating the constructed codes that withstand the green, instead of that alternative green infrastructure which can absorb the impact. So those things can be promoted. And of course, empowering the communities, that is the most important features, because most of the people, they are from the birthplace, as well as they own that place. They don't want to migrate, even though they will ready to die, but they don't want to migrate. So they have to understand the risks which they want, that sort of participation of the and then we can gather the information from the local people itself for their ecosystem health, and then how to protect. And the last one, this is the important, as well as the structured governance that will be a ray of hope, that the stricter policies should be enforced, all violations should be punished, and the resources are adequate, and then the coordination is also there, and the accountability is also real, and the political pressures comes from the prevention, not just as a response. So with these, I would like to conclude. I'm so sorry for the in between disturbances. So thank you very much, sir. And